So we're going to get started with Swift. I'm going to do this video is going to be a very quick and dirty introduction to Swift. It assumes that you know how to program in an object-oriented language such as Java or something else. It also, it also assumes that you know programming. Okay, so when you open Xcode, one thing that you can get started with a playground. This is basically a place or an editor that will allow you to code pieces of programs in Swift um, that you can evaluate immediately. So it's an interactive shell. You don't have to compile and run a program before you can use it. So we're gonna do here intro to Swift. Here you name your playground. Make sure the platform is iOS because that's where you wanna do it, and say next. Then it's going to ask you to save it someplace. Let's save it there, it doesn't matter. Now you have, in a few seconds, you'll have an editor. Here's the editor, right? It says string hello playground and import ukit. Let's erase everything. We're going to get started with Swift like this. Just a quick thing about the playground. You have the editor. Here on the side you will see evaluations. Whenever Swift evaluates something, you'll see it there. So if I do 3 plus 2, for example, all right, Swift might take a while. My computer is very slow, but it evaluates to 5. So every evaluation is going to be on that side. Then there's another area of the console which you will see very soon. So let's start. Let's start with the typical hello world. So the way we print stuff onto the console is with the print command. Quotes for string, hello world, just like that. Okay, this evaluates to hello world, but it also prints it to the console. So if we want to see what the console looks like, we can click here, and this is the console. This says hello world. That's where the output goes. This here is just for a reference. This is what's actually being outputted. Okay, so let's go immediately to variables. You can declare several types of variables like this. For example, you can say var a of type int is going to be equal to 3. You don't use semicolons or anything to separate the lines, just rely on separation and just hitting enter. Var b is going to be double, that's going to be 3.4, and then var c is going to be a boolean, just bool, and that's going to be true. So if you already know how to program in Objective-C or some other Apple language, you'll see that there's a few differences here. You will be noticing them, but for example, strings don't have an @ sign. The bool type says is true or false, it's not yes or no like it used to be in the past. But if you're new to Swift, this is all irrelevant. Now, one cool thing about Swift is that Swift can infer types. So for example, I can have a variable d equals 3. It assumes that d is an integer. Okay, so then I can do d plus 2, and it will know the result of this is 5. Okay, so it can do these things. I can say var e equals 3.4, and it knows it's double. Var f equals some string, for example. Var g equals true. And it infers all these types. Okay, it infers the types for these variables. So you don't really need to specify the type unless you have a good reason to do so. Okay, now we can change these variables. For example, I can say q equals false, right? And that's fine. I can say e, for example, equals 4.5, and that's all good. But sometimes we want a constant, a behavior that's a constant. If you want to declare a constant, you use the word let instead of var at the beginning. See how I used var? If you don't use var to declare a variable, you're going to get an error. Unless, of course, you use let to declare a variable. So, for example, here, now h is 5, and if I do h equals 4, then I will get an error. See that there's an error here that says note note, change let to var to make it mutable. If this is let, this variable is final. Okay, it's not mutable. All right.